Biko from South Africa. And I'm General Ampalisi from South Africa. He's a member of Parliament Green. Okay.
Don't just let this visit be that for Scottsdale. Please open your arms for us as you see our way forward. Thank you. Yes.
There's a light upon that you first got. You go where you want. Miss Maria.
Yes,
prayer. We ask Yen Kimpong to pet na champong nani to seek him bebwa, Yen Kimpong and Ninibo. We are asking Almighty God, which is Yen Kimpong, to speak to the Queen of Heaven so that she come upon the earth and see what is happening to the children of the Almighty. Yen Kimpong. That's it.
Thank you, Colonel Free. Well done. I will just pause for a moment to introduce our guest today. Today we have with us Miss Obiwa Amfansa. Am I correct? Obenawa Amfansa.
By the way, she's from Ghana, and many of you, in terms of your ancestors, are from Ghana. So you need to give her a very, very
Welcome again. Beside Miss Amfansa is Mr. Nkosinathi Biko, son.
You know more about it.
I'll try.
Go ahead.
Son of Mr. Steve Biko, South African revolutionist. Then we have
Yes, Amanda.
Thank you very much. We now have the great Dr. Julius Garvey, son of the right excellent Marcus Garvey. They were also accompanied by Miss Marimba Annie.
Well, my work is teaching and studying and learning all about African culture so that our people who are living in the United States can know what their heritage is. And already I have seen things which I recognize from the Akan people in Ghana and even other areas of Ghana, which has in common. So you say Madasi, you say Madasi. Thank you.
They are accompanied by Miss Maureen Godsmore. There's a secret, Mr. Claude Sinclair. This big man is the promoter of Big Stone Production. Today, Miss Annie, Mr. Garvey, Mr. Biko, Miss Amfansa, Mr. Sinclair, Miss Godsmore. I think being with us here in Scottsdale is a pleasure, and we could not accept you persons without calling our representatives. And today, persons I call as representative for today is one of the MP, not one of the MP, but the MP of Southeast St. Mary, Dr. Winston Green. We have also with us Mr. Franklin St. Jules. He is representative of the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office. We have Miss Alice Berry Gale. She is a lecturer of Edna Manley School of Dance. We have the manager of SDC, Mr. Travis Graham. Joseph, this lady is one of us. This lady is someone who we can rely on. And when I called her yesterday, she even took person with her. Welcome, Miss White. I thank everyone for making this day an opportunity. Please sit back and hear what Dr. Garvey has brought forward for Scottsdale. And please feel free to ask any question you want to ask. They are here. They are the ones you need to ask the question. I am now going to turn over the chairperson, Miss Yolande Stewart. Please, sir, don't charge
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dignitaries, Colonel Prey, everyone, a pleasant good afternoon. I hope you'll enjoy this little program I have in my hand. With no other ado, I'd like to ask Dr. Winston Green, the MP of Southeast St. Mary, to just come and give us some greeting.
Earlier on when I took the mic, I was saying good morning, now I'm saying good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Well, let me tell you something, I was outside from after 10. And let me tell you why, when I thought about it, and see how the wait was worth the while. I was very hot outside, and I had a seat, and I had something to drink. And I cast my eyes back to the days of our forefathers, when they were toiling in the sun. They had maybe some water to drink, and then way in the day they'd have some lunch or something. But when we compare the little wait that I was waiting and what our forefathers went through for our liberation, I thought it as nothing. And then again I cast my eyes back and I say, you know something? I admire the discipline with which the people are waiting. Because I do know and you do know that many a times we wait for the dance that starts 2 o'clock in the night and we start already from in the morning, don't it? So it is really a honor to wait. Let me tell you something, to have these persons here, the son of the great Right Excellency Marcus Messiah Garvey. It is a privilege to Scottsdale, and I wanted to give them a real round of applause. I do recall when I was in my teenage, and I was what you call a revolutionary. And I remember names, all of those names from countries of Tanzania come straight down, those liberation fighters. Tambo, I remember Steve Biko. As a matter of fact, I remember a song, Biko, Biko, something to the side. And I remember all of those. To see his son here today with us, if you know the history of those persons who fought and have died for not only for our country but for our race, then you will understand why it is a great pleasure to have them here with us. I want to give a hand for. I want to say a special welcome on behalf of the people of Scottsdale. I know that you have been treated royally since you arrived in Jamaica, especially by the Maroons of Scottsdale. I have no doubt that the hospitality will continue. I have no doubt that the friendship that is being formed here between this community and yourself will continue. May we have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.
Yes, Ms. Dawn White, formerly from JSIF, just to come and give us a word. persons at the table, good afternoon. This is a great pleasure. This is an honor. And I feel special to be asked to say something because I am rubbing shoulders with the gentry. And I say that because I see Marcus Garvey as a prophet, my prophet, in this time. We have a tendency to feel that prophets only come out of the Bible. We only believe that heroes, or we only think that it's only biblical figures are spiritual. But Marcus Garvey is my prophet. He is to the Rastafari, John the Baptist in this time. And to be here in the presence of his son, I mean, there are other times that I see Dr. Garvey, but I usually very far in the back of the crowd. So, and I am honored to Mr. Biko. I am from an era when all things happening in Africa affects us directly. A lot of times, some of us will say, we are not Africans. You hear us. Persons like me always say, we are Africans born in Jamaica. And so, coming up, and I'm not making any apology for it, because the Indians and the Chinese who are born in Jamaica are called Indians and they are called Chinese. Some of them don't even name Chin, but they are called Chin. And Miss Lee and Mr. Lee, and they don't have that name. And so, there was a time when all our children began naming African names. We've gone back to the conservative time now, so you are hearing of the Matthews and the Johns again. But there was a time you heard of the Tamu, the Malay was the different African names. Now, your father is seen as one of the most prominent freedom fighters because of how he died. And the film, I don't remember the name of the film because I was so, but there was a film that told the story of his life. And the thing with us Jamaicans, we will not accept that we are Africans, you know. But anytime anybody go against any country in Africa, everybody will vex. Yes. And I remember as a young person, when what happened to Steve Biko happened, that, I mean, the whole Jamaica was in lamentation. We were angry. And so, you're being here. I don't know if you resemble your father. But trust me, you will see a lot of persons that you resemble out here. Because when you came in, I thought it was somebody else. You know? So I cannot understand why we will not accept that we are Africans. Because every day, we are coming here, because you have the African channel now on cable, and when you see ourselves. My lady from Ghana. I'm glad also, I've met Ghanaians, and again, as a child, in primary school, I was asked to write a letter. The class was about grade 5, so about 10 years. We were asked to write our letter 15 years in the future. My address was Accra, Ghana. So, I am not a just cop from very young. Maybe because of how the African map was pretty in the atlas, I don't know, but I was always
Africa. Thank you all for coming to be with us, the Maroons. Thank you for this, especially this Maroon community, which a lot of Jamaicans don't know that Scots Hall is a Maroon community. They don't know it exists. So the fact that you are here, it is telling a lot of Jamaicans that you are telling them something they don't know. So we give thanks for your presence, and I hope you will see this day as a memorable day. Stop in your memories for the rest of your life. Blessed love to you all, and give thanks for your I'm going to ask Legendary to just come.
Jamaica, right and one educate on the youngster. Follow me wanna make we talk about Jamaica. Right and one educate on the youngster. Well you know dread Jamaica produce a lot of educator and also produce a lot of entertainer. Not to mention a lot of world class sprinter. So big up the cat with the Paul Verdica. And also the youths when they must have who see him bold yesterday were record holder. He pulled the record up with the 100 meter. No listen to the DJ on the iTunes to walk on me, we talk about Jamaica. Right and no one educate on the youngster. When him no dread, when he is gone by youth, I remember. In the ancient days of my ancestor. When the people poor parents from down Africa pick up over John down with plantation owner. So we been a population here in Jamaica. We know the population is getting stronger. But we have to get a fight from the wicked oppressor. No people from the nature on the actual power. I mean we talk about Jamaica. Right and no one educate on the youngster. When you no dread, remember Taki, another great warrior. Should have be a hero, but never get the honor. No listen, oh yeah! Yes, blessings, you know. Yes, man, I say greeting again to each and every one. You understand? Well, congrats.
That one is very catchy. I'm going to ask Miss Alice Berry Miss Alice Berry Gale from the Edna Manley School.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you all dignitaries at the table. I can say your name, but I'm sure they don't want to hear a lot of me. But with due respect to our honorary lady, Alfonso, Mr. Biko, Dr. Garvey, to Miss Maramba Annie, our Colonel, to our MP, Mr. Green, our protocol observed elsewhere, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon again. Good afternoon. Truly, it is an honor for me to be asked to serve in the capacity. I'm actually serving in the capacity as speaking on behalf of a project that has started with and for the Maroon Council. It is not an accident, I've said to them, because 30 years ago I was trained as a social worker, even actually before I started to teach. And so I worked in an urban community that had a lot of challenges, which being Hannahtown, Jonestown, Tivoli, Fletchersland, and the works. So I was at that organization for 10 years, and this is like 30 years ago. I was just a youngster then, but my organization believed so much in development and development work, and our national hero, Marcus Garvey, was a big thing in our organization. So development first means the people, as Mr. Garvey stated, and development was for the people. After that, I wrote my master's thesis, and I've said to Colonel when I first met him only a few months ago that, Colonel, you know, I have my master's thesis with me because it was dedicated, a section of it was dedicated to Champong Nani herself, because in 1998, she greeted me, shook my hand and said, I'm Nani of the Maroons, and I'm pleased to meet you. And so, knowing that from that time, and long before that time, I've been brought up in a family that understood well what blackness means,
and what it means to not only be woman but also Jamaican, and what it means also for coming from bottom up and sit on the platform with everybody else to speak for our culture and our heritage, then that is awesome. And so there's a section of my thesis that I've written, my little view, I must say to you, Dr. Garvey, that it was using Sir Marcus Garvey as my guideline, and he actually was my literature review for that chapter. And coming to Scottsdale, we had a project to do with Charlestown Maroon to put a production together for their community. A conference was coming up. And not long after, within a day or two of our intervention there, we met with, myself was introduced to Deputy Colonel Yuri Prier, and through that, it is what it is now. Not long after I came to visit Colonel, but also the council and the community at large. So when they see my car passing these days, I'm no longer a stranger, but someone who I know they have respected and in the spirit of development and in the spirit of moving forward, I've never missed no Black History Month movies, and they show them, I must tell you, late at night, 2 a.m. And I've been sitting from I was 15 years old, I'm past about more than 30 years ago, watching those movies of Steve Biko, and also the movies that, and whatever talk there is that as our national hero Marcus Garvey. I've never missed also any interview on IRE FM with Dr. Julius, so I know of you coming, both Dr. Julius and yourself, Mr. Biko, and through Mr. Sinclair as well, because every Sunday morning, my library studies began with the IRE FM at 6 a.m. for the past 17 years as well. So much education, I must say, to all of you is on IRE FM. If you turn your radios on every Sunday morning, what you don't get from school, you definitely will get it from the radio station. I'll briefly mention the project because it's important for the council, and that is on which they have asked me to speak directly. I've been in the process of discussing through JAMPRO a proposal for a development project that should change the face of Scottsdale community in general and should help with the development process economically, social and otherwise for this community. One of the aims of the project, is to establish a prosperous Scottsdale community through activities in agriculture, cultural tourism that is geared toward income generation, poverty reduction, and social development. So we work there in our heads with the council and with the chief writer, Ms. Sharon White at the University of the West Indies, who pulled together and was able to formulate a more than 10-page document that went in with the ideas for the people and by the people. And so I was invited to sit in on those meetings, those sessions with them to pull ideas together that way to see how we can broaden Scottsdale so that it's not just a dot, as was told early on, that nobody knows about Scottsdale, but your presence today is not only historic, but also the fact that they have begun through discussion to talk about the work that they want for this community. And it came from them through the council meeting. For me, is very, very tremendous. So it's not an accident that I met with Queen Nanny, mother of the Maroons, many, many years ago. But neither is it an accident that I studied the culture, because much of the culture is in the dance. You want to know everything about your religion? Study the dance. You want to know about the organization? Study the dance. You want to know about the history? Study the dance. And so what you have today, you must not take lightly. Your dance, your heritage, your culture, but to preserve it as much as possible, because it's one of the chief things that should get you to move ahead. The project in terms of changing face, there is, from the discussion coming out of that, there's a number of acres of lands that are about, and in looking at it, the research has shown that presently the University of the West Indies is using papaya, young papaya, to treat diabetes patients, those who have had a cut or an injury, and so that became one of our chief primary agricultural produce. that can come from this community, because not only will it be able to serve the University of the West Indies, but diabetes has become such a common thing in Jamaica and elsewhere that out of this organization and out of this community, there can be that kind of growth, abundance, where you will be no longer on the bottom, but moving from bottom up. So that's one of the chief agricultural things. Another one is the use of herbs. There are 3,366 herbs in Scottsdale, and there is a story behind it, which is not a myth, but also a fact, that during enslavement period, Scottsdale was the hospital base, and this is where all Maroons came when they were injured. So Scottsdale you have, and we have proudly as Jamaican, Black African, or white African, because there's white African too, a unique culture, a unique gift of herbs, a unique gift of flora and fauna. We have also an idea of a museum, so that there be a plant museum linking and going in tandem with the Castleton Garden, which is boasting these numbers of flowers and fauna that we pass each time. And we also look at a long-term possibility to go into later on, where there be use of a spring as a spa. We have ready-made springs that will pass along the way as we drive, and we don't have to have hot water. But in Maroon communities, Maroon will know exactly how to use their herbs and to make that become a reality. So that's a long-term vision that is also possible. And before I actually forgot, there is also the possibility for a homework center. So in creating the Asafo Yard for conference and celebration and events of this sort. So I hope that another time when both of you and all of you have the opportunity to come, and I hope it will be possible that you'll be able to see and to meet with the people, not necessarily in the classroom. And the classroom is a good space to begin, because the classroom is also a learning space. But that we will be out there in the Asafo Yard itself, because that is where the intention of all of this should be. I just would like to conclude that hair is very rich in research, and hair is very rich for growth and development. Marcus Garvey is about transformation. Steve Biko is also transformation. They are both martyrs, and we are blessed, truly blessed, and truly honored to have in the space that we're all sharing, not only the lady from Ghana and from elsewhere, but also the very, very influenced Marcus Garvey's son and Sir Biko's son. We thank you.
Information. I hope you all have listened. I'm going to ask Dr. Franklin St. Jules. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Greetings for people. I love everyone. I respect to all the executive and thing like that. Outside long time, we're not taking in everything that's going on. Okay? So before we're going on, a tune for the island and thing, I want to say something to the island. So Marcus Garvey, that man should have in every church, in every school, in every shop, and in every swimming pool. Remember me tell you that. It's Marcus Garvey, he's an honorable man. This before we do this tune, I want to do this one. Old pirate, yes they rabbi, so light to the merchant ship. Minute after they took I from the bottomless pit, but my hand wasn't strong. By the hand of the Almighty, we forward in this generation triumphantly. Won't you help me sing these songs of freedom? It's all I ever had. Redemption song, redemption song. Emancipate ourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves waiting for me. Now I'm here for atomic energy. None of them can stop my time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand beside them? Some say it's just a part of it. We got to fulfill the book. Oh, to hell me say. Hold on! Redemption songs. Redemption songs. Alright, go on people. Ready now? Oh Marcus, go before us. Oh Marcus, go before us. At the great man, they know me want to lead us. Oh Marcus, go before us. Go before us. At the great man, they me want to lead us. Equal rights and justice for all. Man, know yourself till your back against the wall. All black man, don't try to fall. In a slavery, men do me fast and tall. Hey, sell your shirt, buy your cutlass. Push out this so we go chop. Every man a fi go plant up the crop. Because food a fi in every pot. We soon can't buy food in a shop. Oh Lord!
To come and give us pregnancy. Ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. As Dr. Garvey indicated, I'm actually originally from Ghana. So my full name is Ya, because I'm a Thursday-born girl, Obenawa Amponsa. And as we spoke with Mr. Sinclair and others about what we would like to do during our time in Jamaica, one of the things that we said we absolutely had to do was to come and to meet the Maroon community, to meet all of you here today. So we honor you for accepting our request. We thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. As a Ghanaian, I suspect that many of us are actually related, cousins from long ago. And Dr. Garvey, it's also a pleasure that on our first trip to Jamaica, we would be here with you. Being from the Black Star Nation, you know from where we draw so much of our inspiration. So we thank you. We hope that this will not be our last visit to Jamaica, and certainly not our last visit to Scots Hall.
Thank you. And we hope that you'll enjoy the rest of the program, and we appreciate you all so much here today. Mr. Dr. Nkosinathi Biko, the son of the South African Revolution, Mr. Steve Biko, we're going to ask you to just give us your greeting.
Thank you very much. Colonel, thank you for welcoming us to your community, your home. I was asked by someone if I had ever visited Jamaica before. And a few years ago, about 11 years ago, I was on a ship that docked at Ocho Rios. My response though to that person was that I have yet to visit Jamaica. That is because on that trip, nobody spoke to me in a language that I know. I got off the ship, I managed to get a ram or two, and got back on the ship and off we went. Nobody whipped out the drum and beat the drum for me, which is a good indication that you are welcome to the place. So thank you for welcoming us. The second thing that reminds me of home is the manner in which even this program is being conducted. I tell the story often that one of the fathers of Pan-Africanism in South Africa, Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe, used to say that if you don't have time, you don't want to ask an African how they are doing. Because in their response, they must have the opportunity to tell you about a whole range of things. How the cattle are doing, who was born, who got married, who was buried, and all of those things are what make it their well-being. So this concept of wellness for us is a process that starts outward in. So I am admiring the extent to which the program is informing us about the wellness of this community. And of course, we are honored to be visiting this community because I guess in a language that our parents spoke, Dr. Garvey, and I think that the one common thing about Steve Biko, between Steve Biko and Marcus Garvey, is that they gave us a vocabulary that empowered us to understand the situation we were under. But more importantly, they gave us an empowered vocabulary for us to do something about it. Here is a community that could be described by others as victims of slavery. Yet, it is a community that has chosen to describe itself as survivors of slavery. And there is a huge difference between the two. And so we are very happy to be here representing the people of South Africa, the Steve Biko Foundation, to be part of this conversation, to learn and share, and hopefully be all the better for our meeting. I must also then pay my final tribute to my brother, Dr. Garvey. Our paths have not crossed before, save through some correspondence last year. Yet I believe that our journeys have been in parallel, such that I think that at the point of meeting, we are able to call each other brothers because of that common history. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have Dr.
Yeah. So we soon come home. We soon come home. Mama Africa. Mama Africa. Soon come home. We soon come home. Mama Africa. Mama Africa. So them brought the people to this island to enslave us. That's why we can't trust no Babylon, cause them outrageous. So them beat us, ill-treat us. Hey, them to Babylon, they just a beat us. Why you want to see the blood leak out? You best stop check the people and with your sweet mouth. So come home. So we soon come home. Mama Africa. Mama Africa, soon come home, we soon come home. Mama Africa, Mama Africa. Say them no know about Nkosinathi, Kojo and Marcus Garvey. Maroon and fight them the war from in the 18th century. Bob Bunny, Peter fight the war for the century. When them say what them want like them no know where. And no know say how them life them poor way. What a thing from poor way. We do all the hard works, them collect the glory. Come home. So we soon come home. Mama Africa. Yeah, listen.
I ask you to just give us your
someone comes to us, we say Akwaba, welcome. And we greet by saying Hopeson or Etison. They're well, they say Edye. So we have been studying the languages of our ancestors. And one of the primary ones that we've been studying is Tree. the language that comes from the Akan people, who the Asante people are part of, which is your heritage specifically, but belongs to all of us. My experience started, my real growth, my consciousness started as a young person in 1963, going to Mississippi to join my people who were then confronting the system of white supremacy in a very meaningful way. So I was a part of the student movement at that time, and then began after that time to study what I thought should be the foundation for our revolutionary ideology. And I studied with Professor John Henry Clark, who was the first to introduce me to the ideas of African civilization and the greatness of African civilization. What has come to pass is that the meaning of what of the Maroons for us, the word that has been used to represent powerful rebellion against those who would enslave us, for us is extremely inspiring. And so you become so important to the African world, and the fact that it passes on this knowledge on to the little children is extremely important. And that's done through the dance, through the music, through study, also through what we call ritual drama, which is when we act out how we're victorious. And we have to act that out for the children. I mean, actually do dramas about that and show them that. There is a great, now an ancestor, say Nananum, who wrote a book called The Maroon Within Us. And that was Dr. Asa Hilliard. And what he was saying was that within all of us as African people, as black people, that there is this spirit of rebellion and African victory and African sovereignty and African power. It's within all of us as African people, and that what we have to do is to learn to tap into it. And he said that all education for our people should be trying to tap into that maroon within us. So I just wanted to say that so that you understand how important you are to us. I went on to become a fierce Pan-Africanist, and in that process, Marcus Garvey came into my heart. And that's what I do now, is to spread his word as much as possible. He himself was connected to you all in a lineage. And one of the things that his son, Dr. Julius Garvey, talks about, and that Garvey talked about himself, was that the most important thing that we have to liberate is our minds, because we have been taught that we are inferior, that we are slaves. That is what we were taught. Whereas we rebelled against that and said, no, we were enslaved, but we were never slaves. And that's very important for our children to understand. So the mind liberation is extremely important, which connects me to when I was in the movement in the South. One of the things that we talked about was black consciousness. We developed that concept, and some of those who were working in Alabama, I myself was working in Mississippi, talked about that concept of black consciousness, and that connected us to Steve Biko, who wrote about and talked about the concept of black consciousness. And the reason he did that was because of the importance, again, of the mind. and the liberation of the mind. And a quote from him, if I get this correctly, is that one of the most powerful, well, he said the most powerful weapons in the hands of the oppressor, that's the enemy, is the mind of the oppressed. So that the way in which they have been able to colonize us and enslave us is by enslaving our minds. And so as Bob Marley said, which came from Marcus Garvey, we must emancipate ourselves from slavery. And the last thing that I want to say is that I was having a discussion with Dr. Garvey about the importance of passing on what it is that we know, passing on what it is that we do, passing on a victorious consciousness. And too often, the children of our great leaders and our warriors have not fulfilled their word, have not carried on that struggle. And we have to figure out why. We have to change that. So one of the great things that you're seeing here today is that we have two sons of two powerful African leaders who are carrying on their father's work. I wanted to say that.
With no further ado, this is the moment that we've all been waiting for to hear from Dr. Garvey. So Dr. Garvey, the people, Dr. Garvey.
And dignitaries at the head table. Fellow Maroons, notice I said fellow Maroons. Where you going to pick up on that? I've been told that my father was descended from Maroons. That's recorded historically. So I do feel a kinship with you all. I would first like to thank you for welcoming me. There was a party of you at the airport to greet me when I came in Tuesday evening. And as Mr. Biko said, you all drummed me in, and I felt so welcome. These young men were here to drum me in, as was the colonel there to greet me. So I feel very much at home. The history of the Maroons is central to the history of Jamaica. Just as the history of the Haitian Revolution is central to the history of the Caribbean, central to the history of all African people. Because it represents the revolutionary spirit in us. It represents the spirit that would not tolerate oppression and would not allow ourselves to be enslaved. Because too little is told about the innumerable slave revolts. And the fact, of course, that we made it impossible for slavery to be carried on over time. Of course, it lasted much, much too long. And there was a great deal of suffering. You know, driving up here, as we came up those narrow roads, I went through, in my mind, how as a Maroon, I would wait in the bushes and I would attack the British soldiers as they came up the fire. And I would kill as many as I could possibly kill. I saw that in my mind. And I saw how you were victorious and how you were able to sign that separate treaty with the British. So I congratulate you as a people because your history is dear to us as Jamaicans and as African people all over the world. We have achieved freedom, and we have to ask ourselves then, what do we do with that freedom? We celebrate in Jamaica this year the 51st year of freedom of government from the British colonial system. And the freedom in South Africa is less long. I think you're going to celebrate 20 years next year. And you know the tremendous suffering that went on there into, quotes, modern times. It's important to just recall a bit of that. My father suffered and was totally committed, and attempts were made on his life, but he died of natural causes. This young man's father did not have the opportunity to die of natural causes. Because of his ideology, because of his firm belief in the freedom of black people, because of his firm belief in black consciousness as the way for black people to go, to raise their consciousness to the level where they were free human beings, to chart their own course in terms of their future destiny. Because of his firm belief and his commitment, he would not back off from that commitment. He was brutally murdered by white police and army people in a prison in South Africa. The brutality of that event is unspeakable. Unarmed, they beat him to death because he would not yield to the concept of white supremacy and black inferiority. We must never yield to white supremacy and black inferiority. It is against the natural order. What has been happening in the last 500 years is unnatural. It is immoral. It is unthinkable. It is unspeakable. It is ungodly in terms of its cruelty. And we who have survived that cruelty are here to turn that around. Why would they destroy a Steve Biko? Why would they destroy a Marcus Garvey and the UNIA? Because we are directly opposed to their cruelty, to their greed, to their competitiveness, to their selfishness. We're an African people. We believe in the equality of all human beings, and we believe in the God of the universe, and we believe that God speaks through us, and that we are saying we are life. Now it's up to carry this into the 21st century. Okay, it's our responsibility, it's our burden, if you will, but that's the only purpose of our life, to carry freedom forward. If we don't do it, then we're disappointing the ancestors. So many who died in the Middle Passage died here on the plantations, etc. Okay, if we don't carry that forward, if we don't make ourselves perfect examples of freedom, of black consciousness, and the potential and the possibilities of black people, then we're letting down our ancestors. And you and I come from a system that we know that our ancestors are looking down on us. The ancestors are here. Back home with the pouring libation to the ancestors when we started, because we were calling them down into our presence. When you beat those drums, you call the ancestors, because that's the language that's the rhythm of the universe. Okay? The spiritual rhythm of the universe. We can't let down the ancestors. We can't let down the future generations. We have to build something and leave it to them, so that they have the foundation, they have the first floor, and they can build the second floor, and the third floor, and the fourth floor. That's how our ancient civilizations were built. So I'm saying to you all, get up, stand up. Okay? And the time is now. There's no other time but now. Okay? We can work together, and we must make a better Jamaica. We must make a better Africa, and we must make a better world. Up the mighty race, you can accomplish what you will. Thank you.
Dr. Garvey, you have said it all. And there's a little secret which I'll hand over. I'll hand over to Natalie. Miss Natalie.
Don't tell me you're falling in love with me. Because I fall in love with you.
It's been burning down deep inside. And yesterday was my birthday. And today the secret is Dr. Garvey's 80-year-old today.
Wow, I'm sorry.
Dr. Garvey took this as a task for both you, myself, and the first entertainer, legendary, who celebrates his Earth from yesterday as well. I want you to share with us while we unveil this tablecloth here and see what is under it for both you, I, and legend. Please enjoy.
Gloria a Dios.